Are you a chosen one? Do you have invisible marks in your soul and in your person, the person that you are? And are those marks easily read by other people? Now, I've called this introduction to the topic, the Ink Man. And it's taken from Ezekiel chapter 9, verses 2 to 6. I'll be reading from the Amplified Bible. If a nation sins, then God sends a prophet. That's the normal procedure. Before he sends punishment to the nation, he sends a prophetic voice. And the 10 tribes of the northern nation of Israel were wicked. They were idolatrous, and they knew the 10 commandments, and one of the top commandments is do not have any other gods beside me. No idols. And they were totally given over to idols on the hillsides around Mount of Olives and so on, and in the temple. And so Ezekiel was the prophet chosen to go and warn them about this idolatry. And Ezekiel had a very vivid vision. And in that vision, he saw 6 men sent out to slaughter, to kill people in Jerusalem. And one man amongst them was clothed in linen. I'm now reading from the Bible, with a writer's ink bottle at his side. And they went and stood beside the bronze altar. So they were inside the temple in the outer court by the bronze altar. And the Lord called to the man clothed with linen, who had the writer's ink bottle at his side. So this linen clothed man, linen is a sign of purity, with an ink bottle, he was there, and the Lord said to him, "Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of all the men who sigh and groan about the abominations," because idolatry is an abomination to God, about all the abominations that are committed in the city. And to the others, he said, "Follow the man with the ink bottle." So you don't have to put ink on people. You just follow the man who's putting ink on the foreheads. You take your weapons with you. "And then let not your eyes spare, neither have any pity. Slay," that's an old-fashioned word for kill outright the elderly, the young man, and the virgin, the infant, and the women. But do not touch or go near anyone who bears the mark, and begin at the temple, begin at my sanctuary. So they began with the old men who were at the front of the temple, who did not have the Lord's mark on their foreheads, and they killed them. That's a pretty sad and kind of vision to have, but that's what prophets have got to do. They deliver unpopular messages, and the people were doing a very nasty thing. They turned to idols. Now, the man dressed in linen was an angel, and he put a mark on the foreheads of the righteous inhabitants of the city, who were grieved by the idolatry of the majority. The mark was easily seen by the ones who were sent out to kill. Now let's bring this to today's situation. In our churches today, there's nobody with marks on their forehead unless you've been anointed. I went to an anointing service in London, and I came back on the train with oil dripping on my forehead, but that's not normal. It's not normal that you see a marked forehead. But there are many in our churches today who do not have marks on their forehead, and they have a false sense of security. They think, well, I'm a Christian, I prayed the prayer of salvation. I'm quite sure when it was, but I can find it, and I've got a Bible. I don't particularly read it very much, but I've got a Bible, and I'm okay. I've got my ticket to heaven. And they've got a false sense of security. Now, one of the most frightening scriptures that is in the New Testament is Matthew 7. And Matthew 7 verse 21, Jesus speaking, he said, "Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. Many are going to say to me on that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name and driven out demons in your name and done many mighty works in your name? And then I will say to them openly, publicly, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who act wickedly and disregard my commandments." In other words, don't do the will of the Father. Frightening kind of verses those, and it's in the Bible, that's what Jesus said. So we need to be very, very sure that we are really going to be accepted in heaven. Just before the agony of the crucifixion, Jesus gave his disciples certain instructions, last-minute instructions. And these last-minute instructions were truths about the kingdom. And we'll go through this in the next 7 videos. He was talking about spiritual marks on people. Now, this is not common knowledge what I'm teaching today. You won't hear this preached in churches. But those who are seeking God and are serious that they're on the right path need to know that faith alone is not sufficient to be saved. You need a transformed life. James, who was Jesus' half-brother, said this: faith without corresponding works is dead faith. It's just mental assent, and it won't get you into heaven. Now, as I say, these truths are revealed only to those who are willing to seek, to listen, and be prepared to surrender to God's calling and say, well, those marks are obviously not present in my life. Well, you've got time. Having listened to this video, or these set of videos, 7 as I say, after this introduction, because we're going to be examining in detail the characteristic features of people who have been marked by the gospel, people who have been transformed. Now, transformed is like a little caterpillar coming into a chrysalis, from a chrysalis into a butterfly, and it's a huge change. A metamorphosis is the Greek word they use in Romans chapter 12. So, have you been transformed? You need to listen to these truths, and I'll be dealing with them, as I say, in detail. So I'll see you then. See you in the next video, which will be about 3 days after this one. God bless you. Thanks for being with me today.